All right, welcome to our session. Thank you so much for being here with us. My name is Elizabeth Moon. I lead our customer engineering team here at Google Public Sector. We have some incredible experts here who are going to share a lot more about how they're partnering with Google Public Sector and applying technology to really transform the missions and the community services where they live. Before we dive into the discussion, I want to just set the stage for our discussion. You've heard it. You saw it in the keynote. We are really in this new era, the agentic era. Today, leaders across industries and really around the world, they're harnessing this new technology effectively and at scale to solve real problems and to drive value and impact right now. We are no longer in the pilot or POC phase. You probably heard Thomas Kurian say yesterday, we are in that production phase with agentic AI, and it is an exciting time. And I gotta tell you, in our ROI of AI report, we found that agentic AI is already reshaping how organizations operate, how they innovate, and how they advance their missions. 55% of public sector leaders report that their orgs are already leveraging AI agents. 42% report their organization has deployed 10 or more AI agents. And 61% stated that their organization plans to allocate 50% plus of the future AI budget to AI agents. What's the message here? We are, whether we're helping someone find affordable health care, whether we're navigating a complex tax process, we are seeing that impact of AI when it comes to modernizing the government experience and the government touch points. The ROI we're talking about today is that ability to deliver faster, more personalized, and equitable services and outcomes. And this moment in time is super, super exciting. So let's take a look back for a moment. Google has actually been building towards today since the beginning. 25 years ago, Google created the front door to the internet, the Google search page. Today, we provide the front door to enterprise AI, powered by Gemini Enterprise, which you've hopefully heard a lot about this week. Gemini Enterprise is our advanced agentic platform that brings the best of Google AI to every employee for every workflow. Gemini Enterprise empowers teams to discover, to create, share, and to run AI agents all in one secure environment. For public sector organizations, Gemini for Government is how you can get started on this journey right now. With Gemini for Government, you're able to move beyond AI exploration and pilots right to those real-world applications at scale. And you probably heard the message yesterday. We deliver that differentiated AI experience through this differentiated full stack approach. We can drive mission impact with this integrated stack that's really designed for velocity, for precision, for cost efficiency at scale, and it sits all on top of this foundation of choice and uncompromising security, which our government customers require. This integrated stack is precisely what makes Gemini for Government so powerful. So now let's get to the discussion. Here to talk about how they're leveraging this powerful technology stack to transform services and outcomes and to create more efficient governments that benefit all. Please help help me welcome my panelists as they come to the stage. Ted Ross, CIO of City of LA, Rob Fitzpatrick, Senior Level Counsel at IRS, Mayor Tim Kelly for City of Chattanooga. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for being here. Sure. We're going to start with just some quick introductions. I'd love to hear just a little bit about you, each of you, your role, what you're working on today. Mayor Tim, let's start with you.
Well, again, I'm Tim Kelly. I'm the 66th mayor of Chattanooga. We are, mid-sized city in between Nashville and Atlanta, right on the Georgia border. And I've been in office about 5 years. I came into office not ever having run for anything, including student council. So I came from a business background and a tech background, and so since having been in office, I was fortunate to inherit an administration that was already on Google Workspace, and so we've been hard at work. One of the pillars of my plan for Chattanooga is efficient and effective government. So I really feel like I was in the right place at the right time as this technology began to evolve and emerge. So I've been pushing my team to be as on the front foot as possible about implementing these solutions.
Awesome. Rob, how about you?
I'm Rob Fitzpatrick. I'm the senior level counsel at the IRS, and I actually have to say I hadn't had a lot of technology experience until I met Google in 2020, and 2023 I got put in charge of transforming one of our 45-year-old legacy systems that was using COBOL.
Wow.
And that in itself was a task. But what we concentrated on was automation at that point, and we saw dramatic improvements. And fortunate for us, we now have a good, strong partnership with Google, and we're looking at introducing AI to actually accelerate some of the benefits we got from automation.
Awesome. Ted.
Ted Ross, I'm Chief Information Officer for the City of Los Angeles. I serve under Mayor Karen Bass, and I get to manage the Information Technology Agency, which, by the way, is the greatest team of IT professionals in the world. I've got some of them right here in this audience today, and I heartily believe that. I do.
Awesome.
I joined government after 9/11. I felt that government, and I still believe that government can do a lot. I, of course, have been in this role for a while, believe it or not. I have actually been CIO for 10 years, which makes me an elder statesman. I don't feel like that, but I am. Either I'm doing something right or I'm paying for crimes committed previously, and this is part of my sentence. Either way, here I am. But honestly, I think that government and technology are very powerful partners. I'm in a world where every day I've got to do more with less. You may look and say, oh, LA, there's money growing on trees. I'm sorry, last year in the news you saw that we had a $1 billion deficit we had to fill. We may be large, but we have to manage our resources, our finite resources. We have to deliver to a constituency of 4 million residents, 500,000 businesses. And a few things are happening in LA over the next few years, which we'll be talking about. Basically, the whole world will be watching us. So no pressure, but we're very proud partners with Google because Google is extremely innovative. They're in a lot of things what we aren't as government. And so we learn a lot from Google. We use their tools, and Google learns a lot from us.
That's awesome. I love that. Thank you all for being here. So we're going to start with a question for everyone. This session is really about transforming services, right? Transforming government services and outcomes. I'd love to hear from each of you if you can talk about one example where just the original or the business as usual technology wasn't necessarily going to cut it. You had to really think outside the box and think about bringing a new way of doing work to government. Why don't we start with you, Ted?
Sure. I hope that no one has to experience what it's like to lose a home to a fire. It's dramatic. And honestly, all of you saw last year our Palisades community and Altadena experienced terrible loss of those fires. And I think what that meant for us is it basically gave us a specific challenge around permitting and reconstruction. So we already digitized permitting to an extent. We had online forms, we had portal, we had tracking. We had a lot of ways to try to digitize and make permitting online, but it wasn't fast enough. It wasn't simple enough. It wasn't straightforward enough. And when you get a community who's completely devastated, who has pressure to rebuild, I think that's when it exposes that even if you're online, it doesn't really make it digital.
Yeah.
Right? And so we got to the point where we had multiple departments, multiple agencies, multiple processes, and I think it hit us very hard. So we introduced an AI pre-plan check tool. So where before you would spend weeks and a lot of money having to try to go and find out that you're missing something, the fact that AI could digest complex building codes, could evaluate your plans and give you feedback before you even submit at no cost, then allows you to tune up, maybe fix 8 to 10 things, so that when you submit for formal approval, it coasts through as fast as possible. It was this wake-up call to tell us that it's not just about digitizing a process, it's about perfecting a process flow. It's about streamlining. It's about getting customers ready before they even know that they've put everything together. And so for us, it's a reminder, and it ties very closely to the agentic conversation. It's not just good enough to take something and automate it. You need to go ahead and create real customer journeys. And I think that was a reminder around permitting of what it means to have a digital customer journey.
Wow. And talk about connecting to something that just really matters to people.
Yes.
That sounds like an
and
incredible
still matters.
project.
It's not in the news,
Yes.
but these folks are still building their homes. It really does still impact us today.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Rob, how about you at the IRS?
Well, I just want to add to what Ted's
Yes.
saying. It's digitizing it, but it's actually being able to use that information in a way to make us successful. And if there's any area of the law that's dense and filled with analytical documents and large amount of documents, it's the IRS.
Yes.
And so when we're dealing in this universe of dense material, we needed to look for a solution. One of the attorneys that were my mentor when I first started said that he can memorize what's in 6 boxes. But when you get beyond that, he required us to enter in everything into Excel spreadsheets. And that was my job as a junior lawyer.
Wow.
And what we're doing now is sort of revolutionary. We're essentially moving from a filing cabinet mindset to an intelligent document management system so that we can actually pinpoint what we need for a particular controversy. And that's revolutionary for us.
There was a lot of talk this week about not just having the data accessible, but making it actionable. And it sounds like that's really what you're talking about, an intelligent, actionable system.
And that's absolutely necessary. And as we develop, we have outside counsel that is using very sophisticated systems to supply us with the data. And we need to be able to go and look at it with that fine eye and scope through it.
What a great use case for AI. Mayor Tim.
Well, you know, same third verse, same as the first, really. I mean, again, we've done a lot with permitting because we all sit on these kind of towers of Babel of layers of information and regulations and ordinance, and helping to navigate that is super important, right? So that we can give consistent answers and just speed up the process. I mean, what I tell my people all the time is what we're really trying to do here is nothing short of restoring faith in government, right? By being able to, because I mean, think of all the cynicism, the sort of the DMV attitude that most people have towards government. We could really put a huge dent in, if not banish entirely, with this technology. So we've done a lot around permitting. I think we still have a ways to go, as we've talked about. Really, we're at the edge of the agentic possibilities here. We've also done a lot with our, you know, again, just with our 311 operators, giving them notebook LM and letting them give people more accurate answers about what they can and can't do. My city attorney sometimes couldn't, prior to this technology, give me a straight answer as to what somebody could or couldn't do. So it's been really transformative in that regard.
That's awesome. Awesome to hear that. So Ted, let's talk about, you have a few things coming up in LA.
Yes.
The World Cup, a little thing called the Olympics.
Yes. There's a Super Bowl as the meat of that sandwich, by the way.
So that's, and that. You've migrated your organization, Gemini for Workspace. I think 27,500 folks
that's right.
are now
But who's counting? I think Nima knows the number over here. Yes.
How is that helping you sort of prepare for this really important moment?
Tremendously. So you may remember before I mentioned that we had a $1 billion budget gap, which means you end up not being able to hire, right? And so a city with, let's say, 27,500 employees who are able to help contribute, it doesn't mean you could hire another 10, 15,000 to go ahead and manage the Olympics. Add on top of that the cost of human capital. It's more expensive to hire people. Our city council approved 24% pay increases over the course of a series of years. So on one hand, you're getting paid more. On the other hand, the cubicle next to you is empty. And so how do you deliver, right? Because we can't fail. Failure is not an option. Everyone loves to talk about the 1984 Olympics as the Olympics that saved the Olympics, right? The LA Olympics. We're not going to sit here and let you down in 2028. And so when we think about Smart LA and what the Smart LA 28 strategy is, it's all about taking technology and deploying it to benefit residents, businesses, and visitors. We're going to get a ton of visitors for 2028. So AI, of course, plays a massive role because here's a sophisticated suite of technologies that do something that was unimaginable just a few years ago. This is way beyond college students faking essays, right? These are a suite of tools that can deliver tremendous insight and opportunity. However, when you go to the average government, we have a lot of very entrenched processes. We have people who don't even remember who invented the process, and they're hesitant to touch that process because when they showed up, they were told, do it this way and don't make any changes. Now introduce AI, which can disrupt just about every process. And you've got this tension inside of organizations. So what do? First and foremost, we've got to equip our workforce. These are going to be our champions. I can stand at the top and wag my finger all day long. You need to be faster. You need to use AI. It's irrelevant. Until the teams themselves embrace the tools, we're not going to really get value out of this. We're not going to get ROI. So we start off with a real campaign of conversations, a real campaign of engagement, a real campaign of training, introductory, training them in the tools, etc. Knowing this simple fact that while you start with Gen AI, it then expands into agentic. If anyone you caught the morning session, you'll know that Gen AI did to personal productivity what agentic does to business process. Yeah. So now you get out of just this my world of me summarizing an email, and you move into a world of how do I, as a marketing team, do the workflow? How do I hand it off across finance? That is where real power is, which, by the way, it doesn't end there. It even goes beyond there. But as human beings, I heard a quote recently, and I do believe it. If companies like Google stopped innovating on AI today, it'd take us about 3 or 4 years to catch up as humans. The stuff that you're deploying today, most of us are still years behind. It's only going to keep going. So our ability to bring a workforce together to start to understand and deploy tools, it means they're ready to deploy the next tool and the tool after that, right? Because it's only going to continue to accelerate. So for our workforce, what does that mean? We have a fire department who's of course been in the news the last couple of years, but they're able to use Gemini to look at fire and EMS data, medical data, ambulances, identify geographic areas, delayed response times, to propose strategic repositioning of resources. They were widely criticized for their inability to deploy at the Palisades fire. Now they could use AI for that. Our ability to do grants and grant discovery. I mean, the Olympics is full of the ability to capture federal and state money, but these are long 100, 200-page documents, hard to digest it. We don't have the staff, et cetera. So the ability to get in there, use Notebook LM, consume information and say, are we able to compete for this? And if so, how can we apply? The list just goes on and on. Amazing. So traffic management, sanitation, using it for sewer CCTV footage, identifying where pipe issues are. Every business process has an opportunity to leverage AI. And at the City of LA, we're working aggressively. We're far from perfect, but we're working aggressively to identify those areas of opportunity and start leveraging them. And it's only going to continue to grow as the years grow.
I love hearing how you talk about the cultural change aspect of this. I think it's so critical. We can bring the tools to the people, but also just encouraging them to experiment, learn.
I said it this morning. The difference between us and Google isn't the tools, because we're using your tools. The difference between us and Google is your culture. It's your talent. You have folks who look at the world a certain way. I have folks who look at it a different way. Now, admittedly, if your folks came and joined my organization, they'd be amazed at the complexity and all the requirements they have. I'm sure. But the reality is that's no excuse. We need to adopt more of the culture of what it is to mean a digital business, even as government.
Yeah. That's super, super helpful to understand. All right, Mayor Tim, in the city of Chattanooga, you have a pretty important smart city initiative. Would love to hear from you how you're leveraging AI to think about, improvements in traffic patterns, improvements in, the Smart City initiative that you have. Can you talk to us a little about that?
Yeah, the Smart City movement was kind of the hot thing a few years back, and there's been a lot written, so, that was a failed promise, and I don't think that's the case at all. I think, we just went through a bit of a lull, but Chattanooga also has one of the largest and fastest municipal fiber networks in the country, which we have had for a long time, and that also includes a bunch of smart switches, which we have a Center for Urban Informatics there that we've integrated. We're bringing all that data into BigQuery, and not only trying to get to Vision Zero and eliminate pedestrian fatalities, but also anticipate like where we can improve traffic flow, put new crosswalks in by watching what people are doing, and then using AI to really optimize. And like a lot of southern cities, we're really dealing with enough growth that NIMBYism is kicking in. I mean, it's a problem across this country. Personally, I think that most people kind of become NIMBYist because of their experience with traffic. And I think if we can accomplish this, if we had the money, it would take us 10 years to pave enough roads to be able to accommodate the growth. But if we can do this right, it will be as though we've added another lane of traffic, across 600 square miles of city. So, we are pursuing it with some urgency and having luck.
That is super exciting.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yes.
All right, Rob, let's talk. We'll change gears a little bit. At the IRS, you're working with just a lot of paper-based information, complex regulations, as you mentioned. Talk to us a little bit about how you're using AI to sort of modernize and sort of get out ahead of that.
So I talked about how we just started this journey recently, and the first thing we had to do is sort of play catch up to get rid of our legacy systems. And that's no easy task, because as we get rid of the legacy system, we have to stand up the new modernized system and maintain the old system as we transition. And we successfully did that, and we added a lot of automation pieces into that to streamline. And one example is when you file a petition to the tax court, you have 20 days to answer it. Well, if the attorney doesn't get that petition for 12, 13 days, it cuts their time down.
Wow.
So just with an automation, we were able to bring it down to 30 minutes to get at least the petition, but not any of the documents, not any of the material that would be required to intelligently work that case. What we're doing with Google now is to tie those two things together. And so to bring the case file down within that same 30 minutes, so that we have not only the petition, we have all the records of the taxpayer, the individual's information, so that we can make an assessment of that case. And really what's revolutionary is that we're going to try to do what's called quick settlement. So you have 28,000 cases coming in. If we can assess the petition, the file, the records, and look across our entire databases of what historically we've settled minutes before the trial, when an attorney has already spent 3 weeks working that case, even for a small case, that would be revolutionary. Number one, it saves the taxpayer time. It enhances their experience. Just imagine you file a disagreement with the IRS, and 2 days later an attorney's calling you saying, I have a deal for you. This is what we can offer you, and this is why. And that's only possible with the changes we're doing now. And,
that's remarkable. I mean, you don't think of the IRS being able to act that quickly within, you said it would go from, how long is it today, and gets down to like 30 minutes?
So it was 13 days for a petition. If we had an office in Texas, it would come into Washington. We'd have to figure out where it goes. It would go out to Texas. Then it would be processed with an admin person to create a legal file. Then it gets to the attorney's desk. And whereas it's a very complex case, we know they're coming in, but the average taxpayer, we don't know what's hidden in that petition, and it takes time to go through it and assess it. And I think this is a remarkable opportunity to streamline the process, and maybe one day, the IRS won't be that, much hated group.
No, I think that's that. I mean,
at least they'll be more efficient.
Experience.
That's right, more efficient. That's right.
They can hit you quicker.
Well, and also the nice thing about this is we can look across all of the settlements that have been done. So an attorney in Chattanooga or LA might have a different opinion when they're making settlements with some of the cases. Here we're going to have a fairness that it cuts across the entire country.
Yeah.
That's
pretty remarkable.
No, and I would just editorially add, from my experience as mayor, many times it's the frustration that really lights people up, right? And to the extent that it'll reduce frustration, they can live with an answer as long as they can get an answer in a timely way.
That's right.
Yes.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing, Rob. It's great to see how much the technology is enabling you to move fast for every one of you. Some great examples. All right, we're going to go to a lightning round. We're really talking all about, again, how AI is being used to power a more responsive government. I want everyone to help me finish this sentence in 10 words or less. All right, the biggest impact and benefit of AI for our users and communities is... All right, Mayor Tim, we'll start with you.
It said 10 words or less, so I counted. But it's in restoring faith in government by providing better answers faster.
I love that. Restoring faith in government, providing better answers faster. That's good. Rob.
So what I did was say it's turning complex data into faster, more equitable outcomes for everyone.
Love that. Yep. Ted.
We're a city, it's all about the services. So faster, simpler, and more equitable access to government services.
Yeah. Faster, simple, more equitable.
That's right.
A lot of common themes, even though we're at 2 different cities and the IRS, it seems like a lot of common themes.
Yeah.
Well, we have time to keep going. We're going to talk a little bit more about how we're reimagining how services are delivered to our constituents. Let's talk about a time maybe when we're not just making an old process faster or better, but maybe a time where we've just completely reimagined and thought about how we could just deliver new experiences to our constituents. Maybe, Ted, we could start
Sure, I would love to. And how much time do we have? No, I'm just kidding. When we think about a city, and honestly, it doesn't even matter what city that is. LA may have 4 million people. Maybe you live in a bigger city in New York. Maybe you live in a smaller. But we all have the same challenges. We have people who drop trash. We have people who in some cities spray paint. We have potholes that need to get filled. There's a long list of things and they're all important. In fact, the number one most important, the biggest system at the city is the 311 system. We get 3 million requests a year for potholes. Someone dumped a couch because they moved out of their apartment or whatever it may be. So for me, reimagining is no longer having people tell me there's a problem, which is really what 311 is.
Yeah.
We just know there's a problem. And then, crazy thought, fix the problem before anyone has to tell us.
Yeah.
So the ability of automation, the ability of computer vision, the ability of AI to actually go down a street, identify a pothole, in the middle of the night, send an automated robot to fill the pothole, to then keep going, right? It's 2 a.m., it's quiet, you'd never even know, pothole filled. So it's proactive city issue identification, it's proactive city service delivery, and that could be done through automation. There's plenty of work for humans to do, but the concept that something can remove graffiti, fill potholes, pick up illegal dumping, these are all urban challenges that would be greatly improved through automation.
I love the idea of just you're starting to anticipate the
Yes.
needs before anyone even has to call
Yes.
in or
Because here's the problem, Elizabeth. Some communities are better at complaining than others.
yes.
So the communities that are really good, full of lawyers or whatever it may be, who are always out there letting you know, why do they deserve better service delivery than another community who just isn't as good at complaining? Right. Maybe they're busy all day working or whatever it may be. So everyone deserves service.
I love that. Yeah. Mayor Tim, these probably resonate in the city of Chattanooga.
Completely.
Any other
yeah, I
thoughts
mean,
on
so
this?
I'd say a couple of things. One, just to echo, what Ted said, the equitability piece of this is super important, not only at the individual level, but the city level. I'm seeing what this can do for a smaller city. I mean, Chattanooga's a tenth of the size of LA in terms of city government. And so there are a lot of things that were just out of our reach in terms of just resource constraints. So that is happening. But the other really exciting thing, we're working with Google Public Sector and a unit called Jigsaw to really look at, I mean, listen, if you talk to people in local government, they will tell you the big frustration is the same 5 people showing up to city council every week, raising hell about a thing. And and the council people react. They don't know if that's really what people, Too often, those loudest voices are steering public policy. We're not there yet, but we are close to a model where we can ingest a lot more data on a regular basis to give us, lights to steer by, so that we know we are actually on the right path.
Yeah.
And I think, AI gives us the opportunity to do that that's never existed before.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is very exciting.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Rob, any other use cases?
Well, first, it's going to be very hard to follow the potholes, because I worked for the Senate for 5 years, and potholes really drive this country. And so
I went with the sexy one.
My use cases are very narrow, but they're impactful.
Super.
And so what we're looking at is there's a lot of patterns that occur in the tax administration that the naked eye can't always find, or if it finds it, it takes us 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And when we find it, we still come back after the taxpayer that made that mistake. And when you find it quicker and you resolve it up front, you save large penalties, you save interest. You fix the problem before they knew there was a problem. And I give an example. There was a trend in the country on conservation easements. Innocent people were just convinced that they could pretend donate pieces of property and then take huge deductions. And we found it was really the promoters. But it took us 4 or 5 years to find out it was a series of promoters that sort of brought in innocent people into this process. And,
oh my gosh.
And had we found it immediately, we could have flagged it, stopped it before you even took that deduction, and it would have been all over. And I think we're going to see that trend where we're able to proactively look at problems across the spectrum and then help fix them sooner and quicker.
Don't flag my file, but I was one of those people.
No, Rob, I love hearing from you this desire to really just improve the experience. Every one of us interacts with the IRS. Yep. I have to say, this year mine was very efficient and quick. I feel that the agency is trying to anticipate the needs, improve the delivery time. That sounds to be like where you're getting at. The faster you can interact and the faster you can resolve some of the complex challenges that are out there, the better for the customer, for the user. Okay, so we have time to talk a little bit. One passion area for me is, you talked a little bit about it earlier, Ted, around how we're introducing this kind of new technology to the workforce. Yeah. So many of our use cases in government are, let's improve the experience for the constituents by kind of dramatically changing the experience for the workforce and the employees' capabilities. Can we talk a little bit about sort of how you're thinking through enabling your workforce? Is it just, we heard a little bit, it's not just about the technology, but we'd love to hear some of the things you all are doing. Maybe we could start with you, Mayor Tim.
Sure. So we have the great fortune in Chattanooga to have a nonprofit called the Enterprise Center that we founded when we put the municipal fiber network in to make sure that fiber network had an equitable impact for every Chattanoogan, that it wasn't going to exacerbate income gaps, which are already way too broad. So we are in the process of pivoting that now to really focus on AI, because everybody's heard all the kind of grim stories of what could happen with job loss and so on, but I think what we're forgetting is that it can also help us really upskill a workforce and retrain folks. So I'm super excited. I'm very much involved in workforce development. I really think there are two types of mayors in the United States: the ones who realize that workforce development is the most important thing they're doing, and the ones who will soon realize that workforce development is the most important thing they're doing, because again, without that, nothing else really matters in a city. So we're super excited about that, looking at how we can, agentic AI could both act as a career coach to figure out where skills gaps are, and then perhaps even help tutor people to show them what more they can do. Inside city government, as I remind my folks all the time, look, we don't manage for dividends. We're already stretched too thin. This is, as we've talked about before coming up here, this is just making our people so much more productive in kind of the classic execution of comparative advantage, right? And pushing down these lower level tasks to agents and allowing them to focus on higher order stuff. So I'm super bullish on it in government. And frankly, I think it's up to us to set the tone across the workforce and make sure that it is used to retrain and upskill the rest of the private workforce.
That's so exciting to hear, and I think that's probably like a huge driver. You want your city to be known for introducing talent or introducing technology that can help to train. That's awesome. Rob, how about you and the IRS?
So just taking it from a different point of view, one of our biggest challenges is when we do introduce AI into our legal workflows or accounting workflows, training individuals to use it correctly and take all the advantages out of it is a transformation of what they're used to doing. You may say you get rid of lower end workflows, but a lot of them cling to those lower level workflows because it's comfort to them, it's ease. And this isn't the first time we're seeing that, we're just seeing it at an accelerated pace. When I joined, we did not have computers at the IRS to type our legal work. Everything was done by hand. And there were attorneys that left because they were pushed into that. We're going to see that same transformation with this system. So what we've done is we've sort of instituted a train to sustain model.
Train to sustain.
And so what we're doing is we're pairing them up with system engineers from our contractors, putting that in the contract so that we actually learn how they've done their work and learn from them how they're deploying agents in our environment so that our staff have the capability to do that as well. We've taken them and put them through system admin, business classes where they've gotten certifications already, but even with that, they're nowhere near a system engineer that comes from Google or comes from Salesforce, comes from Claude. So we have to have that train to sustain, and we're putting our first class through this year, and we're going to constantly put that forth. The other thing is, we've always had LLM and tax classes, the IRS, of course. So we have regular training classes. This will be the first year where we'll have a full semester agentic AI and cover all the tools and how attorneys should use them and paralegals should use them in their business use cases.
That's very
exciting.
Cool. That is very exciting, yeah. Ted, I know you talked a little bit about this.
Yes.
Maybe expand on sort of how you're doing it.
I think it's amazing that IT is built by humans, for humans, but we quickly eliminate humans out of the equation as we start deploying it. I'm sure I'm not looking at a group of race car drivers, but if you were to go to a racetrack and I gave you a Ferrari, and I took a proficient race car driver and gave them a Honda Accord, they would embarrass you.
Yep.
They would embarrass you. But you're like, it's a Ferrari, it's so fast, etc. The person behind the wheel makes way more difference than the wheel itself. I can hand you sophisticated AI tools, but if you're not proficient in them, you're really wasting your time. But if I took someone who was very proficient, they could have subpar tools and they'll still make the most out of it. The analogies go on and on. I could buy you the world's most expensive hammer. It doesn't make you a carpenter, right?
Yes.
And so investment in the workforce is fundamental. I remember the world in which we deployed desktop computers, right? We pulled all these computers out and we said, you were doing this with forms, now you have a computer. I made the joke earlier, the first thing people say is, where's solitaire, right? That's what everyone started doing. For those of you old enough to remember.
That.
Yes, solitaire was awesome. It was the best thing Windows did, right? And so everyone pulled it out and they started using it. And in the beginning, they weren't sure what to use the computer for. Then you started to see applications, you started to see workflow, and now I could not imagine work without my computer, right? But we trained people then. We took people, we said, here's how you use the mouse, here's how you use Microsoft Office, whatever it was, we trained them in it. For some reason now we're in a place where like, here you go figure it out. And we're complaining about the results. So for us, this became an opportunity to not just train people in AI skills, but in digital skills. We complain that people aren't user-centered, but we haven't really trained them in user-centered design. We complain about people's business processes, but we've never done business process reengineering, right? Like these are all the things of what it makes to be a digital organization, but we're like tool, 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 tool. We won't change the people, we won't change the process. Where's our results, right? And so it's actually just misunderstanding, and I understand the reason why. It's lazy. I can give you a tool, where's my results? I don't really invest in you, I don't really work with you, I don't train you, I don't partner with you. And in a world where we expect kind of immediacy, that's often kind of what happens. So here is our opportunity to not only have a workforce that's AI enabled, but to be digital, which by the way, will work well for Gen AI, agentic AI, blah, blah, blah AI in 2 years, blah, blah, blah not AI in 5 years, and whatever it is in 10 years. You want to have a knowledge worker organization, a group of people who receive new technology, understand technology, and start applying technology. That's actually an old conversation. You could have said the same about a mainframe, right? Yeah. And that will be the differentiator between your organization and your competitor, or your government and another government. So yes, invest in the workforce, and your staff may not understand Agile, and they may not understand user-centered design, they may not understand platform or product, development, whatever it may be. Here's your chance to retool them. Because you're not just training them in how to run a prompt, you're training them in the next wave of innovation. And if you can capture them now and build their skill sets now, then they will be prepared and positioned for whatever's next. That's why it's a little frustrating too often in government to see people look and go, well, I'm working on some pilot. Sounds like you are a 1990s organization who's testing the waters of modern technology. You're never going to do what it is that's going to be required 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. You've got to get people's feet wet. You've got to get them engaged. They have to learn. Yes, do it in a sandbox environment, but these are all things you have to get people to start touching, tasting, and smelling it. I refuse to have someone in the city of LA say they won't use AI and they've never tried AI. I refuse that. It's like a child who won't taste the food but says they hate it, right? Try it out and then come tell me why you don't want it or why you don't like it. And honestly, it is a product that does sell itself. There is clearly many areas in most people's workflow where they would get great benefit from it. They just are nervous about the change, which again, they were nervous about the computer, they were nervous about the internet, they were nervous about the smartphone, they were nervous about the cloud, they were nervous about social media, and on and on and on. So yes, invest in the workforce. They were there before AI. They will be there after AI. They're literally the most important component of your organization.
I love that. It's just awesome to hear all of you talk about the importance of the workforce. I think we have time just for some final advice. Maybe we'll just go down the line. We'll start with Mayor Tim. Any final advice for the crowd here?
Well, to Ted's point, there's risk in this, right? So I think as far as if there are any other mayors in the room, which is probably unlikely, but it's possible. I mean, but you should be demanding of your leaders that they use these tools. But for a lot of mayors, it's scary, right? You have to adopt some level of risk, and generally the reason you adopt risk in a business environment is because your competitors are kicking your ass, and we don't have that problem. And so you have to do it because you're passionate about delivering better services. What I would say is, and again, not on the payroll at Google, I'm a big fan of Google, is that your partner matters, right? If you're going to adopt risk, then the partner that you're taking that risk with matters a lot. And I mean, what I hear constantly is AI, like it's one big thing, and the best analogy I've ever come up with or heard is, AI is like Transformers, if you're familiar with the movie franchise. There's good ones, there's bad ones, there are, they're different, right? So just choose wisely.
I love that. Thank you. Yep. Rob, any final words?
My biggest advice is that you can't wait for the perfect policy moment to start your transformation. And everyone does that. They look at, oh, let's not do it now, there's too much disruption. They're having changes in the workforce, therefore we're not going to be able to be successful. I think there's a Chinese saying that, to move a mountain, you have to pick up one stone at first and then move that stone. And the same is true here. You have to find a use case that is going to produce a high return on investment, is simple enough that you can implement it in a short amount of time, and then you implement it and don't look back, and then demonstrate those returns on investment, and you'll be given another opportunity.
That's awesome. I love that. Ted, final advice?
I think approach AI from the perspective of adoption. This is not a trend, this is not a fad. It's like saying the internet was going to come and go. It's here to stay. Even just coming down to the fact of folks like Google are spending $180 billion or whatever their investment is, just from a capital perspective. It's massive. So go with the mindset of, okay, we're adopting AI, so where do we start? And what do we envision, and how do we progress to it? Get people's hands dirty, get them involved, get them engaging. Much like the early days of the internet, I was joking with some folks at Deloitte, who would have thought you could buy shoes online? That sounded ridiculous. Shoes, I have to try them out, right? I have to go to whatever store I go and try them out. Everyone buys shoes online now. So this idea that we think of AI in this one context today, it's going to morph, it's going to grow. And the people who grow with AI are the people experiencing it today. The people standing on the sidelines, they're just watching the game and they have no engagement. So you've got to engage, you've got to adopt it. And like I mentioned before, invest in the human capability, because this is going to pivot, this is going to morph, it's going to continue to grow, it's going to continue to expand. And your capabilities as an organization to be ready to take that next wave, to think about it, to think of the context. I'm from LA. We have story arcs, right? Hollywood story arcs. We're in a story arc. It's not going to end with AI. It's just one chapter in a long book. So how do you prepare your organization to handle the book? I think that's the bigger question.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for the time and the wonderful advice and thoughts on how you're adopting AI in your organizations.